So here we are. I am going to make a video for my girlfriend reading this fanfic in English to try to practice my pronunciation. I hope you don't get bored. It's a Tomione story. It's called Peremo, and this is the sixth chapter. I am not going to read it from the start. I'm going to start reading here. It was lunchtime. The weather was fine. Her workload in the infirmary was good, and it had been a few days since her meeting with Avery. She knew Riddle would be free, and she had decided that this would be the day she would strike. It was a good time as any. All she needed was to find where he was hiding. He hadn't been in the history classroom, hadn't been in the library, hadn't been in the Great Hall. She tried both the Owlery and the Astronomy Tower, and now, out of other options, she was on her way out to the grounds. He had to be somewhere. She considered that he might have gone to the chamber, but dismissed that idea speedily. Surely he wouldn't risk opening it again and waking the basilisk. Not so soon. Hopefully, not so soon anyway. No, he must be just being tucked away in a corner of the castle. She hasn't checked yet. She'll find him. Hermione headed out the through the side entrance of the entrance hall, around the winding hallway that led out into the main courtyard. It was packed, being this time of day. Students were congregated all over, and it was a task to scan them all. Riddle often wore black, and though he was tall, so were many of the sixth and seventh year boys. He'd been hard to spot amongst them all, but Hermione was up to the task. She was no quitter. She wavered between the clumps of students, eyes roaming over them all, giving quick hellos to those who greeted her. She finally made it through into the courtyard. Still no sign of Riddle. Mm. In the center of the grass, she noticed a group of fifth-year girls. They were giggling amongst each other, plainly gossiping. She then noticed that that group of girls wasn't the only group out in the courtyard. There were two, three other clusters, all seemingly to be deep in their own discussions. Hermione continued around the grass a bit further and, bingo, there, under the shade of the large tree by the well, Tom was sitting at a long, clearly transfigured desk with his lunch and multiple books spread out in front of him. He looked deep in his reading, seemingly oblivious to the students around the yard. He looked a little comical, really, but that didn't calm her nerves. All right, all right, she could do this, she told herself. It's just a conversation. He wouldn't kill her. in the middle of the day, in the middle of the courtyard, in the middle of all these students. That would be ridiculous. There was nothing to be scared of. She forced herself forward. "Good afternoon, Tom," Hermione said brightly when she reached him, intruding in his piece of shade. "Would you mind if I sat with you?" He looked up, and though at first he looked a little bit surprised she was speaking with him, his features quickly formed a warm smile. He didn't say anything, simply picked up his wand and transfigured a twig into another chair across from him. "By all means," he said, gesturing to the new chair and leaning one elbow onto the desk. "To what do I owe the pleasure?" "Oh, psst," she sounded, taking up the chair. It was sturdy underneath her weight. Solid transfiguration work. "What makes you think I want something?" He raised his eyebrows. There was a pause. "Fine, you see right through me," she admitted with a nervous laugh. "I was actually hoping I might be able to pick your brain a little bit." "Is that right?" "Yes. I received another invitation for contributing an article in the Prophet you see, and Avery mentioned you might be able to provide some valuable insight." He took a slow bite of his sandwich. "I'm listening." "It's about Hogwarts, actually, and the founders. I'm sure you know. You are the history professor, after all, that each of the founders had, well, how should I put it? A special objects, you could say." She was specifically watching for it, a telltale sign of interest, a slight stiffening of his muscles, dilation of pupils, aversion of eye contact, but no, not a single sign of any sort of increased interest. Nothing. Just an open, polite expression that one would give to show that they're listening. He was just brilliant, wasn't he?